Okay guys, we have an opening here that I'm gonna have to run some J channel around and some Z flashing. I have another video that shows how to bend this, but I already have a piece bent. So I'm just gonna line it up with the edge there, mark this edge here, and snip it there, and there, bend it right there. Okay, now the correct way is to actually cut the Tyvek right with the edge, and right with that edge. Now what I can do is slide right up underneath there. Now this is mechanically flashed out. I do have some tape here. I could have taped the top. That's technically not the right way to do it. Okay, now just these little corners, I'm gonna tape where the little slice is, right there. And right here. I could tape across this whole thing, but you don't really need to. Okay, so now it's flashed out properly. There's that little trick again. Okay guys and gals, today I'm going to show you how I J around an opening. I have a couple dryer vents here I need to run J around, and what I'm going to do is just hold it there, mark there, mark here, and I'll cut it about 2 inches big. I could go 1 inch big, but I like to go about 2 inches big, just so I know I have extra. I'm getting the piece for the top now, so I have now the piece for the top and the bottom. I'll set that aside, and I'm going to cut this a little bit beyond my mark, cutting the trough out. I'll cut the trough out there as well. So there's the first piece. And now I'll get the side pieces. Slide it right in there like that. And I'll mark this a little bit at an angle going backwards, back that way, so that this point here doesn't get cut too far out. That will hold this piece out, so I want it to go nice and snug. And I'm going to mark there, and then up there. This is a method that I haven't seen many other siders use. I learned it a few years ago, like 15 years ago. And I'll set that aside. That doesn't have to be cut exactly on that mark. And rolling around that corner just a little bit, I'm snipping off that rolled edge. Now I'm eyeballing back in with this inside mark. Fold that up. Now I'll cut this out just like I did below. There's our first one, or our second piece, I guess. That little tab there is just holding that tight now. I don't have to worry about it, this coming out. creating a little gap underneath. Same thing there. And rolling around that edge, snipping that off, and eyeballing back in there once again. Nailing towards the top of the hole so that the piece can't slide down. Right now it's wanting to. And then we got the top. Marking a little bit down at an angle. The bottom edge, top edge, bottom edge, top edge, a little bit down at an angle. I'm hoping this doesn't crack when I cut it. It's a little cold out. I was fortunate there. Okay. Put that down. And there we go. Give this a little bump with my hammer in the inside trough. Do the same thing over here to get that to seat down. And there we go. Jade out. And looks pretty nice. So that's how I run my 45s. And one thing to note on any opening, now the water can run down the siding when it's raining, and it's going to collect in this J. It's going to work its way down the edges. It's going to get behind the siding right here on this point. So that'll happen on doors, windows, and you name it. What I could do here is take this piece of metal. I could actually go just over this nail fin here and tape this off. And that would kick this water out that's coming here. It'll kick it out to the outside there. And most vinyl, I think all vinyl, has these weep holes in it. And that'll allow the water to escape. So you're deflecting the water back out so it's not running down the house wrap and potentially getting in somewhere else and creating rot problems and all that. This house wrap is installed properly, so I'm not concerned about it. But that is a method that you can use to assure that you get the water back away from the wall. All right, guys. Okay, we are back, and it is chilly out today. 30 degrees, but the wind is pretty, it's whipping today. It's coming right across the little pond right there. All right. So today we're gonna try side this thing right up to the top. Shouldn't be much of an issue. Should be able to wrap this gable end up today. Hopefully the battery on this thing does okay in the cold. We shall see. I'm wrapped around the pole. I am also bundled up like the Michelin Man here. Feel like a big old marshmallow. All right. I have a separate video that shows how I did the J around those dryer vents there. And this thing here, I'm just putting it right on the window there. And I'm gonna cut it just right there. So that I'm about maybe a little bit more than an 1/8 inch into this J channel here, and that'll give it room to grow in both directions. We'll see how things crack today. Hey, looks like maybe it's just cold because of the wind. And once again, I'm marking it on tight there because I'm all the way tight here. And I'm leaving a little gap right there. Once I cut it, the whole thing will slide over and I'll have gaps on all edges. Oh, don't be not shooting for me today. What do we got? I'll give myself a little bit of room up there. 4 inches. Oh, that's nice. I like it when it's 4 inches. Yep. I can just run my knife right along that rib right there. It's pretty quick to do it that way. And being careful not to knife all the way through this and cut the house wrap. And I stopped just a little bit short of the cut. That way I'm not cutting where you're gonna see it right there. There we go. Oh, okay, there we go. This is a little bit nerve-wracking. It might actually crack when I do this now. Hopefully it doesn't. I gotta flex that down enough to get the clip engaged. Whew. Got lucky. See if my luck holds out. Yep. There we go. We are all clipped in. And we got room to expand, which is especially important right now with it being as cold as it is. Same way I like to go across the windows on the bottom. I like to go right across them on top too with one piece. Try not to put a seam over it. Giving myself room to grow right there because I'm tight inside the corner. And I'm gonna go tight right here. Tight to that inside J. And we have, looks like about 4 5/8 there. And about 4 5/8 should work here too. Now with this one being so close to this rib, I don't know that I would be able to get my snips on it without it cracking in both directions. If I try to go this way, it's because of how much it's going to twist it right on that rib. It's just too much pressure and it'll probably crack in both directions, up and down. So, and if I go this way, like I was saying before, it likes to crack to the left of my snip, so any cracks will just head up the piece that I need. Wow. Yep, I think that'll still be in the J, so that'll be all right. Gets pretty brittle when it's cold out, so I'm just using my thumb kind of to brace myself here and help direct my cut. Okay. You probably see the cut is not perfect, and that's quite all right because that J is going to hide a little bit of imperfections. Now if this is too wrinkly over top of this window, I could put an undersill to help hold it from bubbling, but I don't generally put undersill on the top of windows, and it seems to work out pretty well. Oops, I'll have to take that one out. Yeah, I'm actually not thrilled with the way that looks, so I might actually add something in there. Sometimes I'll just drop a piece of scrap inside there just to hold it back. In this case, oh come on, just broke the staple. You can see how this thing is starting tight there, or further in there, and it's bending out, and so it's going out and then back in. So that'll probably show up. You'll probably be able to see that from the ground. So I'm actually going to take this whole piece off and do like I was saying. I'll put a piece of undersill up there. Set that aside for now. And we'll see how this thing does. Not quite long enough. There we are. This gun puts the staples a little bit tighter. So that it's not going to bubble the siding out. That's why I always switch to this Senko. It still gives the undersill enough room to expand a little bit. I don't know if I finished saying what I was thinking or if I just only thought it, but the if you're close to a rib, like I managed to keep the rib on that piece right there, that would hold it a lot nicer, and I probably wouldn't need this undersill on top of the window. That rib on the siding will give it some rigidity. Okay, pound these guys in. Okay, looking good. I'll actually take this bungee cord and get these things. There. Now they won't slide off the end. Okay. Little bit of a detour there for a second, and we're on for round 2. Make sure I get that thing inside the undersill. Now what I'll do, so I'll actually measure to that line too. Before I was just kind of using my eyeballs to, if it's not bubbling or anything, I know that the siding's actually heading pretty straight. Now the undersill is holding it straight, so I'm not really positive that it's holding it flat. So I'm not positive that it's actually heading straight. But I have that line there. I should be able to measure to. And off of this clip, it should be right around 2 3/8. So I'll just hold it the same right across there. Yeah, 2 5/16. 2 5/16 right there. So I'm putting a nail staple at the bottom of the slot, at the top of the slot. Now it's locked in place up and down. So when I clip that next piece in, it's not going to drag it up. All part of a good job here. Okay. And you can see that can still move. So if you're a novice, or even if you're a pro, it's a good idea to check once in a while if your pieces can still move. They have to be able to move freely. Right there, I'm going 3 feet. I know that these bars are 2 feet apart, and then I just go in the middle there, so that gets me 3 foot off. That's how I cut my starters. Looks like I could cut a little bit more off the bottom. Cut was a little bit out of square. Looking pretty good. And like I was saying before, I like to put a staple there, so now it's not going to pull out of that corner. If you only staple or nail in the middle like they say to, like the manufacturers say to, then like I was saying, you could end up with it pulling out of the corner and it just looks like garbage. But follow that advice at your own peril, because like I said, it might void your warranty. Yep. Well, you can't always get them to reach over the tops of windows. This is one of those situations. I could cut this thing right here, but I don't think it's going to look nice to have a 6 foot piece in the middle of the wall. I want to keep my staggers consistent in the siding, so I'm just going to go ahead and put a seam right in this, right over top of this window. I'm not thrilled about it, but sometimes you gotta do things like that. It's a little judgment call. 4 3/4. Check this side. 4 1/2. All right, so this is gonna taper a bit. Especially since I have that undersill there, it'll hold that seam tight together, so it shouldn't look too bad. Oh, made a little nick past it, but it'll be okay. again, I'm nailing about every 16 inches. And these X's are actually 16 apart. And 1, 2, 3, that's a 6 foot. So these starters I'm cutting 3 foot, 6 foot, 9 foot. That's how much I'm cutting off. The pieces are 12 foot 6. So that means the piece that I end up with is, the full piece is 12 foot 6. The next piece is 9 foot 6. Next piece is 6 foot 6. And then the last piece is 3 foot 6. So that's starter lengths. That thing there could potentially hit the next piece right there. So pound that in a little bit. So now I'm cutting into full pieces for each one, even my small one here, my 3 foot 6, because I'm going to take the scraps from each of these starters. I'm going to use it to end the row. On whatever row it happens to work on. And again, I'm holding up tight there, a little bit of pressure, and making sure that the staple goes towards the top of the hole. That way the siding can't settle down. This one actually settled down a little bit. But yeah, it's looking good. Having a 3 foot stagger like I'm doing actually ensures that the rows stay pretty straight. If you put a bunch of staggers in the same spot, or if you line up the seams, what'll happen is each joint actually kind of drops the siding down a little bit, like a 1/16 of an inch. And say you put a bunch of them, like I said, in the same spot going up, right where all those joints are, it's going to start tipping all the siding down, because you're losing about a 1/16 of an inch per joint. I gotta get my eyeballs calibrated here. Keep cutting out a square. Okay. Once again, I'm going a little bit more than 1/8. I don't have a whole ton of room inside that J. Yeah, they gave me less than 3/4, and then they have this weld right here that actually bumps into it too, so they might give me a 1/2 inch. It's not the greatest, but I can work with it. All right, so we had 4.5 down this end. I don't really want to scribe past that mark. I'll have to erase it. Once I get towards this end, I'm kind of bracing this knife with my thumb there so I don't take off and cut past. So I wanted to get this all in over top of this window before I went ahead and stapled any of that. It looks like that nail fin is actually going to hit. So I'm going to knife this thing off here. There we go. Don't think it's hitting. Oh, it's right there. Good. It's good, it's good. Okay. It's got room to go, room to grow. Again, this thing should be 2 5/16 to that line. 2 5/16. Where's the line? Right there. I don't know why this one wants to be so different. Two and a half. What's going on? Once in a while it pays to check this. Yeah, I'm right on layout. This one staple is a little bit low. There we go. If you don't clip in a piece down there and you get all the way up there, you're gonna be hurting. You might have to take the whole wall down and come down to where you didn't clip it in. It's a big mistake. So, especially as you're getting started and trying to figure the feel for this stuff out, definitely take your tape out and just check that you're maintaining your 8-inch increment. Because yeah, it's kind of a big deal if you don't. You don't want your siding flopping around in the wind. On the bottom, I've drove past many houses where eventually they come unclipped, or they just were never clipped in to start with, or they were barely clipped in. Not gonna lie guys, a little bit of a struggle today because the cold and just the mobility is really hampered. So I'm all bundled up like the Michelin Man. There we go. It's all good though. All in a day's work. Reload. Another thing to note is sometimes you might get a clip that's filled with ice or rocks. And make sure that those clips stay clean. They like to collect things sometimes. And that can be a problem when you go to clip this stuff in. You don't realize there's something in the clip and it's going to hold it down. Okay, what do we got? Should be this piece. I'm using the scraps of the starters that I cut. 9-footer. Just pinch it right there, what's going to go in the corner. And hopefully my eyeballs work a little better this time. Make a square cut. There we go. Okay, once again, same way I've been doing. Give a little bit of room on this side. Go tight here. And we need to go about 7/8. We'll leave 7/8 on this piece. I'm just using my legs to pinch this thing so it doesn't move around on me. Just got it in between my legs here. Mark that a little bit far. That's what erasers are made for. Erasers actually do work on this stuff. Okay. And it should work okay to just snip this. There we go. It's in, it's moving freely. That's the sure test to make sure that something's clipped in fully and all the clips are fully engaged. Look at how much I can stretch that thing. Whoop. So I just want to gently hold up and try not to stretch it out too much. If the piece can freely move, then most of the time you have the clips fully engaged. If you're having trouble moving it back and forth, then chances are it's restricted on the clip because it's not all the way fully engaged. Same thing here, tight, and leave a little room. And it looks like about 1 inch maybe. Yep. About 1 inch. try this out. Oh, yeah, it's kind of too close to that rib. I'll just knife it. A lot of this stuff wouldn't even be a thought, whether or not you're bending the piece too much or whatever, which direction it's going to crack. In the summertime, it's not even a thought in my head, but not the case now. It's chilly out. All right, up we go. And this plank's a little too close to the wall. BRB, I gotta fix my nail bags. These things are falling down, barely hanging on my hips. Alright, we're back. I just moved my staging up a little bit. Can hear a little bit of ice rattling around in there, so I wanted to get rid of that. Alright. You probably noticed I like to clip in that end and then come this way where these overlap. For me it works a little easier. I like stapling in that direction. It's a little quicker for me. I can see where I'm going to put the staple down next. See how we're looking. It's pretty straight across there. Pretty good for coming up over all that. If you want to make sure it's perfectly straight, like I said before, you could start from up here, get your first full row on, and then work your way down. That'll get you a more or less perfectly straight row once you get up past the windows and stuff. It is a more foolproof way of doing it. I might show you that method on the next house. The next house that I do, I'm going to show the whole process from start to finish, and it's probably gonna be, I don't know, 40 hours of footage. But this is not stuff you're gonna learn from a 2-hour classroom. So. A lot of times what I like to do here is, right now I'm going to cut all my starters, and then I'll take them all over there with me. So I got my 3-foot off. Save the under piece. Oh, nice. Nice. I get rid of a box. Bye-bye. No, I don't have to battle that box so much. So I got 2, 4, 6. Cut this one. And now I got my 3-footer, 3'6". 2, that's 3, that's 3'6" right there. I'm using those holes in my plank to measure with. So I know that they're 2 foot apart, like I already said. Clean that thing out. Make sure there's nothing in there. I dipped this thing in the dirt, apparently. Whoops. There we are. Good as new. I guess it is new. Okay. I didn't staple my corner all the way off when I installed it, so I'm just stapling it as I go. Okay. I like to get rid of the box on top first. A little easier to work. Not so much weight on the poles. Easier to pump them up. And working off a more level surface. But yeah, I also like to take everything I need for a wall up with me. As much as I can. Take everything I need, and that way it reduces my trips up and down. The more you can reduce your trips up and down, well, the more efficient you are. The more efficient you are, the faster you are. Without saying. Goes without saying. Oop, come on. It's looking good. Going up. Usually when I do a wall, I'll take all my soffit and metal and everything as well. This wall, I'm not doing that. I'm going to show you how I go about figuring out my metal up at the top, the fascia metal, and the soffit once again. A lot of this is going to be kind of repetitive, but like I said, any newcomers, we'll try to get them up to speed. So we'll need the 6-footer and the 9-footer. One thing I can do is just spin that around. You probably saw me do that on a different piece. Spin it around and cut it to about there. That gets me my piece the right length. That one cracked the nail fin. I don't know if you saw that or not, but it'll be alright. It was really close to the edge. Sun's starting to shine on this stuff. It's cutting a little bit easier now. Okay, see now it's not uptight, something's holding it. I got a little bit of ice in that clip, so you gotta be careful about that. After a few years you start to feel it. I mean, obviously you could see it on the joint there, but you also start to get the feel of how it clips in. It's a pretty finesse trade here. A nice view out onto the pond. I keep on wanting to call it a lake, but I don't think it qualifies. I think it's quite big enough. And some people might call it a swamp. I don't feel like walking all the way down there, so spinach around. Make sure we're in that corner, otherwise I'll be cutting it too short. Looking good. Looking good. Sometimes what happens is I've actually had siding that wasn't even formed straight, so the piece was either bent down or bent up, so it kind of feels weird when you go to clip it in. Like, man, why does it feel like I'm bending this stuff? It's not made straight. I do have a slight belly in this wall, so I am fighting that a little bit. Ain't not perfect. Few things in life are perfect, but oh well. I'm gonna let this thing go that way. So I'll give myself a little bit of room here, and I mark the other side tight. But you know, as this is a small window, see, we got 3 3/8, 3 1/4. I'm not gonna bother with undersill under it. Should work out okay, but if I notice it starts to bubble, then once again I'll have to take the piece off and add a piece of undersill. Usually single windows I don't use undersill. Doubles I usually do, although this is a little bit bigger of a single window because it has that flat casing on it. So we'll see what it looks like once the piece is on. It's an extra step that if I can get by without it, then I will. But if you don't care about the added cost or the added time, then by all means put a piece of undersill above and below every window. It'll ensure that you don't end up with any bubbling. I've found that as long as the piece can move freely, then and you don't make your cut way short up there, it's never a problem, or very seldomly is it a problem. Grab that 3-foot under. I like to put the factory ends together. That's why I saved the piece. Every once in a while I'll have a situation where I want to cut the piece so that the ender works a little better, so that I can get a bigger piece on the end, and I just basically make my own factory end, and I'll probably show you that at a different time. You can see that piece can move. Because the piece can move, it's not gonna create any bubbles underneath this window. That was restricting it a little bit. There we go. Come on. Oh, yeah. Okay, so what's happening here is this end is catching on there and is restricting its movement. Once this next piece is clipped in, what happens is that pinches it in and it holds that, so it's not going to catch on there. I think that's why the manufacturers recommend only an inch of overlap, so that this can't catch there, and then I think there's another spot down here where it maybe could catch as well. But I still like to do it that way because it gives you plenty of overlap, and like I've already said, you don't deal with an area where if you have a long run, where you have, say, 2-3 pieces clipped together, and you only go with the recommended inch overlap, well, these slots are about maybe an inch wide, and what I've seen happen before is the piece will expand and contract. It's going to start walking this way or that way, and you could have a piece here in the middle that walks that way because all your nails are in the center. You have a piece over here that walks that way. Next thing you know, those two pieces come apart, and now the ends are just butting together, and you'll see actually the house wrap behind it. And yeah, I just think, for my opinion, is it's actually not a good way to do it. But like I said before, yeah, follow the manufacturer's recommendation if you want to maintain your warranty. They say, I think a max of an inch, but I'm not certain on that. So as always, check your manufacturer's install instructions and follow those to a T. Some manufacturers probably won't even allow you to use staples. In fact, I'm fairly certain with certainteed cedar impressions, their cedar shakes, I am fairly certain you're not allowed to use staples on those. And that's a whole different animal. It's a whole different animal than just regular horizontal siding. Those things you actually center they give you a center nail to hold that perfectly straight or perfectly centered where you want it. Those have temperature gauges on them, so it gets you the proper overlap based on the temperature. I don't think I'll actually get to install those before I retire here from siding. Maybe eventually I'll get an opportunity to install those and record how I do it. But I'm kind of doubtful about that. You probably noticed I've just been making one at a time now. I just felt like I was fumbling around with pieces too much when I tried to make them all at once. 3'6". Trying not to make you guys dizzy with how much I whip you around here, but next house, actually tomorrow. Next house won't be tomorrow, but tomorrow I have another GoPro coming. The GoPro 11. Oh. See, that's what I was saying, like when pieces open up, that's what you would see, and then maybe they'd butt together. That's the inch overlap, and yeah, how they could walk around. Anyways, let's get this guy on here. Got my 9-foot, and I'm going where I think this is going to be the inside of the J channel, and it's not an exact, doesn't have to be, because you have your overlap over here. And like I like to do, I'm putting the staple there so it can't walk out of the window, which is fine because it can grow. It can grow in that direction. Those pieces can grow in this direction. And the manufacturer, some manufacturers would be very happy that I'm doing that because they won't have to cover a warranty. Although, you know, I think any reasonable person would say it faded or it became way too brittle or something. It had actually nothing to do with the install. If it bubbles, if it oil cans, well, that's going to be my fault. And by all means, I should have to fix it if I did a crappy install and it bubbled. And I really don't blame the manufacturer for saying it didn't bubble because of us. Now, like I said before, if you had a piece that was formed in the factory, bent, not even straight, that would be their fault. But as the installer, really, you should know better than to install something like that. If you find that you're bending the siding a lot and it's starting to cause oil canning down the piece, call up your sales rep from whatever company you're ordering it from and talk to them. Say, hey, this isn't working out very well. And oftentimes, you know, it might be a batch. It might be a bad batch, and they'd rather send out new siding than have you install their product and have it look like garbage. Cut a little bit off of this guy. Alright, these ones I'm actually going to measure in. Measure them all in. I can just measure and cut. Sometimes I'll hold it up there. It's like 92 1/4 is tight, so we'll go 91 7/8. 91 7/8. Like I said, they recommend 1/4 inch on each side, so really this should be 91 3/4. So I would then have my 1/4 inch on each side. But I think it looks a little bit nicer to have it a little bit tighter. It's got 91 7/8. But yeah, if you start putting it too tight, especially when it's cold out, it's going to try to expand. It's going to have nowhere to go in between the corner and the window. When it's got nowhere to go, it needs to expand. It will expand, and it'll just expand in the middle of the piece, and then the material bunches up. That's what they call oil canning. You do not want that. It looks really bad. See, I got plenty of room. Alright, I'll show you guys how I go about using this saw here. I cut my soffit material. I run it the short way. I'm not running it the long way up there, so that's why I measured that out. So I just set that, and I butt against this blade here. I'm at 12 9/16, but this thing tends to move over a little bit, so that'll be perfect when I go to cut it. What I'm doing here is I'm actually kind of twisting this, because it likes to twist that way and bind up the blade, and then it starts to hop, and when it starts to hop, then it'll crack. So I'm just resisting what the saw is trying to do to it, and also just clamping it down onto the table. And you want to just let it go through. Don't like push it. You want to let the blade do the work. I have a blade that's specially designed for cutting vinyl by Irwin, and it does a pretty good job. I'm pretty happy with it. As I've said in previous videos, I used to use a plywood blade, just a steel plywood blade, with that blade put on backwards, and yeah, that worked pretty well. for me, I do find that this this blade makes a nicer cut. It cuts a little faster. Cuts a little faster, and yeah, it's, believe it or not, a blade that's made for it actually works pretty well. Kind of weird, huh? All right, so now we're inside here. I got all my soffit right there. I'll bring that out later. I don't have any metal bent, so let's see what we got here. First, I'm going to bend those boxes. Put this one with the others. First things first is the boxes, and they were 13 and 22 are the two measurements along the bottom. So I know 13 plus 22 is 35. 35 plus 35 is 70. So right there, I'm going to put it right at 72. And I'm going to cut it right there because this thing cuts off 2 inches. So now my piece is 70 inches long. I believe we had 18 inches tall. We've got 18. 18. And this doesn't have to be exact. Want it to be pretty close, but it doesn't have to be exact. Right there. Now this cutoff wheel leaves 1.5 inches. I want to make sure it's completely seated on there. And I'm pushing down there and here. If I don't push down there on that leading edge, this thing kind of tends to go take off. So